All right, we're going to start with the Cubs today. There's news going on. It appears they are very close to a deal for Edward Cabrera from Miami. Here, in my background, the Miami Marlin. Very good pitcher, had a very, very nice year. Had an ERA around 3.5, I believe. Won multiple double-digit games this year, and he's got multiple years to go before he is a free agent. We know the price of pitching is very high, so the ask was high, appropriately so. Not a surprise there. We'd heard talk that the Yankees were involved at one point. We'd heard names potentially of Ben Hess and Dylan Lewis, but that wasn't going to be enough, I don't think. We know they liked George Lombard Jr. was a guy that they always liked, and that's an untouchable with the Yankees. It does appear that barring any hiccup in this, he's going to be going to the Cubs, and Owen Casey is the name that we are hearing about. That is a guy that the Marlins have been interested in for a while, and a very good trade for the Cubs. They've been one-upped, trumped, however you want to put it, by the White Sox. The low revenue White, in fact, the White Sox have the lowest revenue in baseball last year, at least according to reports. And the White Sox have had a very interesting and I would say pretty good winter. And the Cubs needed to do something, and I think they're going to be doing more stuff now as well. Particularly with Casey now gone. Does this mean that they're going to be looking at an outfielder? I wouldn't rule it out, right? We know that they've contacted Bellinger, their old friend. Tucker was there last year. I don't think that's going to be the place for Tucker. I think Tucker's going to be fine if he wants. He could do a short deal, but I think he'll get over 300 million if he goes for that very long deal. I think he will be all right. We will be talking about Tucker in a little while, but let's wrap up on the Cubs here. They're still looking at third base. So Bichette and Bregman are in play potentially for the Cubs. And certainly that those are big time players, certainly nine-figure players, over $100 million. And Bichette's an interesting case, and I'm going to get into him in a little while. But I do believe the Cubs like Bichette very much. Bregman certainly has a lot of teams. So does Bichette at this point. So I think that Bichette or Bregman is the most likely next get, but no guarantees on either one, of course. And they may look toward the outfield now with Casey likely gone in this trade. Nothing definite yet, nothing confirmed. They may have to go through the medicals to get this done here for Cabrera. But if Casey does go, they could put Suzuki in the outfield, or potentially they could look at their old friend Bellinger. And I do believe, look, that the Cubs are a well-run organization. I think they feel like they made a mistake letting Bellinger go. In fact, I've heard that they've told a few people that, and so they may look at Bellinger seriously as well. And so the Cubs, who've been kind of ripped, criticized, whatever, now we're halfway through this offseason. Nice pitching ad. You could say middle of the order guy, but I mean, based on how he pitched last year, I think he's even better than that. All right, I'm going to get to a couple chats now. Is Baltimore in serious running for anybody? Look, they've had a great offseason already, right? With Ward coming, with Helsley coming. They've done very well. And obviously, Alonso, the big one, I do think they're looking at pitching. So I'm expecting, I'm expecting them to add a pitcher. We'll see who it is. I think they'll look at Suarez. They'll look at Fromber. We know that Mike Elias knows Fromber. Wouldn't rule that out. Cubs safe with Suzuki in right field every day. I think Suzuki's okay. I think they can live with that. But certainly Bellinger or Tucker, that would be a big add. Bregman or Bichette, yeah, I agree. That's one or the other, I think, for the Cubs if they're able to do it. But certainly they both have a lot of teams in play. Mets being aggressive on Tucker, not yet, not yet. I think that's more of I don't want to say fallback, but Bellinger is really a better fit position-wise for the Mets or the Yankees. So I think they'll look at Bellinger first, and I do think that they are considering Bellinger at this point. We're going to get into the Tucker market, and I will talk about the Bellinger market when I talk about the Tucker market as well. Pirates, yeah, I mean, Eugenio Suarez, a possibility. I've seen that. I do believe that he would be a potential fit there. Phillies getting Bichette. I don't know where they're yet, but it is a consideration, as I reported in the New York Post. Phillies are looking at Bichette. Bichette's got a number of teams. It's going to be interesting to see how that does play out. Peralta, Yankees, question mark. I think the Milwaukee Brewers, they've always been willing to trade big-time players with a year to go, and Peralta is very valuable pitcher. And certainly in this market where Cabrera is going to get you Casey plus, I mean, I think it's going to be multiple players going back. That's what Marlins have been looking at, getting multiple guys. So I do think it will be multiple guys, not just Casey, not a 1-for-1. We shall see. I don't know that as a fact, just speculating there. Peralta, I think at this point, I think there's a decent chance that he does get traded. Milwaukee does that kind of thing, only making $8 million. I know they can afford that, but going forward, they're not going to be able to sign him. He's tried to initiate things with the Brewers in the past, and they were not game for it. So I do think that there is a very good likelihood that Peralta gets moved somewhere. Not saying the Yankees. Pirates get Suarez. They better. Well, I don't know about better. Excuse me. I think Seattle's still a possibility, so I don't think there's any guarantee there. Peralta or Skubal to the Braves. Wow, I don't know. I don't know if the Braves are going to have or give up the prospects like that. All right, I'm just getting a text there. I'm trying to read that. Tucker Jays question mark. Hey, look, it was months ago that he visited Dunedin, so no guarantees there. Certainly, the Jays are in play. It's going to be obviously a very big market team, whether it be Toronto, Dodgers, Mets. I kind of think the Dodgers, and I've been saying this for a while. We'll see. I mean, if he wants to do a short-term deal at a high AV, and why not with the Dodgers? I kind of think that is a possibility as well. I'm not going to say it's more likely than the Jays, but I'm not going to name a favorite. I've seen some people say the Jays are favored. Well, they've certainly been in on it the longest, at least publicly, but I don't know if they're favored. Yankees going to wake up? Yeah, I do believe that. Excuse me. Yeah, I do. Excuse me. I do believe the Yankees will, as you say, wake up. To me, they have a good team. I know they're predicted to win 93 and a half games. I don't know whether a half game down. That's funny from the 94 that they won last year. But right now, they don't have a full bullpen. I think they need to get some bullpen pieces. I hear they are bargain hunting. Not a surprise, and they signed 3 guys at $2.5 million already. However, obviously they are talking to Bellinger and others, and we're going to get into what the Yankees are doing. Any Giants news? Look, they've signed a couple of pitchers, including our old friend Hauser there in New York. I like the Maile signing. I like the Hauser signing. I do think that they would be wise to really bulk up on the pitching front. And I know that they were in on Cabrera. It does appear that he's likely to go to the Cubs right now. What are the Tigers doing? They're one of the teams on Bregman. Are they likely to get him? They didn't get him last time, so perhaps he'd prefer to go elsewhere. So I'm not going to say they're likely, but they are looking at that. They're taking bids on Skubal. Is that likely to happen? No, I'm not going to say that's likely at all, but they are taking bids. They won't spend any money, and they won't trade Skubal. We shall see. I like what they did in that bullpen. They beefed up the bullpen. They have an excellent manager who will employ that very well, and they're in good position there. But obviously in the Central, they look pretty good right now. Right now, I think they are the pretty heavy favorite to win that division. So perhaps they're reading that and deciding we don't have to do Angels getting anyone else. I don't think so. Look, they decided not to pursue Arenado. I know he hasn't been great offensively the last couple of years, but I do think that is about the money. They did not end up going for Okamoto, who had been speculated on. It doesn't feel like they're going to do anything big. Obviously, they've done a lot of small things. Are the Cubs going to try for an elite starting arm? I'm going to count Cabrera as an elite starting arm. So I think that's their elite starting arm, and we're looking now at Bregman or Bichette, maybe Bellinger or Tucker as well. Bregman, latest on Red Sox. I mean, they made several tries. I can tell you that. Highest level is involved there, and they're trying to get it done with Bregman. He's got a big market. There's 6 real stars left. And to me, Bregman has the least worries of any of them. I feel like he's going to get what he deserves, maybe even more. Those guys with a big clubhouse rep do very well. We saw Schwarber do very, very well in his mid-30s. What is he, 33? Bregman, 32. I think he's going to do very well. I mean, the other guys, they're not going to do badly. We're not going to take up a collection. I do believe Tucker's going to go over $300 million if he wants, unless he wants to go for a short term with a high AV. Bichette's got a lot of teams now, so I think he'll be okay. Suarez, you know what? I mean, the guy's a fantastic playoff pitcher, and I expect him to do well. And Framber is an interesting case. I mean, this is one of the better pitchers in baseball, and the natural comps certainly would be Fried and Burns, and those are the comps I'm sure that they are using. We shall see how he does. I mean, I haven't heard a ton on him. He did meet with multiple teams. We know the Giants, the Orioles, and the Mets at the GM meetings. Now, that was a long time ago. Things change. Mets, they don't want to go long. So, he's going to have to do shorter if he wants to go to the Mets. So, I think. Any news on the A's getting starting pitching and/or a closer? All I've seen on the A's lately is the trademark situation that they've got to figure that out. Like somebody's trolling them on that. But they did get McNeil. They've done a few things. Their time isn't yet. I'll say that. Any news on the Mets? Tucker, question mark, Skubal, Valdez, Suarez. I mean, they've got their hands in all these guys. They don't want to give up big prospects and they don't want to go long. So if they can figure out a way to do it shorter term, they would be happy to do Suarez. They'd be happy to do Valdez. They're certainly looking at Tucker. And I would say they're looking at Bellinger as well. Arenado to the Angels, my understanding is he does not want to go there. That's number one. And number two, they don't want to pay. So not going to happen, I don't believe. He is an Orange County guy. So I get all the speculation, but not a likely scenario at this point. JT Realmuto, they're in a staring war at this point. What are the Yankees doing? They're talking to Bellinger, but right now, no deal appears imminent there, and they're going to look around. And as I reported at the Post, they're going to look at Bichette and some others. Skubal, Dodgers, question mark. I mean, that's a natural team, right? They shoot for the moon, and that is the best pitcher in baseball. I mean, someone could make a case for Skeens or even their own Yamamoto, but Skubal is a guy, and the Dodgers are a team that makes sense. The Mets are a team that makes sense. They've got the prospects. Mariners, Donovan. We heard that the Mariners and the Giants were favorites on Donovan. Certainly, he could fit the Red Sox. He could fit a number of teams. So, I mean, Donovan could play anywhere. So I could see him going anywhere at this point or potentially staying because he's not a free agent after the year. All right, let's get the Kyle Tucker market, number two. It feels like it's the Jays, Dodgers, or Mets at this point. We still have 5 weeks to go to the season start. There have been big-time players that have signed in February or even late February. Bryce Harper was February 28th. Manny Machado was just before that. So I'm not worried about Tucker, not that he needs my concern, but I do feel like if it's not the Jays, it does feel like the Dodgers and Mets are the most likely candidates to potentially sign him. Somebody could come out of the woodwork. You never know, but it's hard to come out of the woodwork at $35 million a year, $40 million a year. And even in his off year, he had a 143 OPS plus. So we're talking about an outstanding all-around player. Do I think he'd go back? He's going to go back to the Cubs as we see the highlight. I don't think he's going to go back to the Cubs. And we've been saying that for weeks. We'll be surprised if he does. Not guaranteeing he won't, but that'll be a surprise for us. I do think that the Jays certainly want him. They have James Click there, who had him in Houston. That makes sense. If not them, look, we're talking about a $35 million a year player or so. So we're looking at only the big markets. The Dodgers would probably do it on a short term. I don't see them going long. He's a great player. He's not Mookie Betts, right? I don't think they're going 10 years. Somebody might. If somebody does, maybe it's the Jays. Maybe the Mets. He's not a perfect fit for the Mets because, look, Bellinger can play center. He can play first. I don't doubt that Tucker can play center or first. He's an outstanding athlete. No one questions his athletic ability. Potentially he could do it, but Bellinger's a proven New York player. 3 big markets, as a matter of fact, for Bellinger, and really remade himself, and he does fit the New York teams better. Is he a better player than Tucker? No, he's not a better player than Tucker. Tucker is one of the best players in baseball. Is Tucker Soto? No. Is he Skubal? No. Is he Manny Machado or Bryce Harper? No, not quite them either, but he is an outstanding player, two-way player, runs the bases well, does a lot of things well. Whoever gets him is going to be very lucky. If he wants to do the very long deal, maybe the Jays would do that. I don't see the Dodgers doing that. I mean, the Mets are already in for a 15-year deal for a right fielder. Are they really going to do that with Tucker? It seems unlikely. If they do, it'd be an interesting sell to give $30 million plus to a guy who really doesn't fit. So, I mean, I'm looking at the Jays and the Dodgers as 1 and 2. The Mets 3, maybe. Could it be the Orioles? I mean, they've got the connection there with Mike Elias. I'm not going to rule it out, but, I mean, they've already spent a lot for the Orioles. And give the Orioles credit. They're one of the big winners along with the Jays so far this year. All right. That's it on Kyle Tucker. Let's hit now on, you know what? It's time to mention Bellinger a little bit because he's kind of related to Tucker. I think Bellinger and the Yankees, have been talking. Is it resolved? No. Is it imminent? No. Will they be looking around? Will he be looking around? I think it's possible. So I think Bellinger might look at the Mets, the Cubs, the Dodgers. Giants, I think, is a tough fit. I mean, he's been a Dodger. He loved being a Dodger. That ballpark is difficult, but they certainly have checked in as well. So those are the teams that have kind of checked in that we know about. Could he be a fallback for the Jays? Potentially. I could see Bellinger going to the Jays, although I don't think that they really need an outfielder. I think they just happen to like Tucker. So to me, Tucker fits the Jays better. Bellinger fits the two New York teams better. Nothing imminent with the Yankees at this point, which I think is what's on everybody's mind. So that opens it up potentially for the Mets, the Cubs, and the Dodgers. I think most prominently, Jays, maybe a secondary shot there. All right, Bo Bichette, one of my favorites. What a great hitter he is. I mean, look at the numbers that I've seen on him with a hard hit rate. The only guy who hit 300 to all fields with at least no more than 40% to either right, center, or left. I mean, he hits the best pitching. I think it's something like 292 against guys who are among the best pitchers with 100 innings and a 3.3 ERA, 97 miles per hour. He's among the best against them as well. We saw him in the World Series. He was nearly the Game 7 hero. This guy can hit, and he's versatile, right? I don't know that he's likely going to be a starting shortstop. I mean, he had to open up his second base at this point with the injuries that he's had. Second base, I think he'd be outstanding. He made a great play there in the World Series. Third base, he'd be outstanding. First base, he could work. Let me give you all the teams on Bichette, and I listed these with the post, some of them first. So certainly the Jays are a team that's looking at Bichette. They've had him for a long time. Do I think that's likely? No, I'm not going to say that's likely at this point. To me, there are so many other teams and so many other possibilities for Bichette. I would say it's more likely that he goes elsewhere. And certainly the Yankees are a possibility. They'd prefer a right-handed hitter, which he would fit there. The Cubs are certainly looking at Bichette. I've heard the Cubs like Bichette very much. The Dodgers are a team that is looking at Bichette. The Phillies are a team that's looking at Bichette. The Mattingly connection there could play. Mattingly and Bichette apparently had an outstanding relationship. Red Sox are a possibility for Bichette. Now, I do believe that the Red Sox are focused on Bregman, as all the reports have suggested. He's their number one choice. They've made several tries to get Bregman back. Still has not worked, as far as I know right now. Are they the favorite for Bregman? I mean, maybe you could call the Red Sox the favorite, but I don't think there's any guarantee there. Certainly the D-backs want him. The Cubs are in play. They're the Jays. I've seen the Tigers. Look, he didn't go to the Tigers last year when they had the best offer of $171.5 million, at least the longest or the highest offer. He didn't do it last year. So, I think they're probably the fifth team in this derby at this point. And to the Jays, they signed Okamoto. Okamoto is a decent third baseman. He's a guy who can play third, unlike Murakami. So I do believe that the Jays might be less likely. I do think they're in on Bregman, but I do see that the Cubs, D-backs, and Red Sox the most likely for Bregman. All right, let me get to some more question. Yankees, Belly, Bo, Skubal, Trey, Jazz, and almost anyone to get Skubal. I think the Yankees, first of all, the Yankees are one of the teams that really tried for Skeens after he was said to not be available. So they loved the idea of Skeens. Certainly anybody's going to love the idea of Skubal. He's fantastic. I do think they have the prospects to get it done, potentially. Maybe not quite as good as the Mets or the Dodgers, but I think they could do it. That would be interesting. They are looking at starting pitching. They were in on Cabrera. Obviously didn't have enough. I think that Miami was always interested in George Lombard Jr. Yankees never wanted to give up George Lombard Jr. I think they had other ways they could make it work. The names that were out there, or at least mentioned, were Ben Hess with Dylan Lewis, a young hitter. But the Marlins wanted more, and I think it sounds like with Owen Casey, plus I think they got more than that from the Cubs. So I don't think the Yankees ever got close there, but they are looking at starting pitching as well. They're in pretty good shape in terms of the starting pitching. So I could see why they're the favorite, at least in terms of the number of wins at 93.5. I think Toronto actually should be the favorite, but I get why the Yankees are highly respected by the bookmakers more than by the fans, apparently. Trey Jazz, I haven't heard anything close on that one, but they are listening. He He's got a year to go. He's left-handed. They like to become a little bit more right-handed. If they do, that would open it up for Bichette even more. But I mean, you could bring in Bichette anyway, potentially, maybe. He could play some first base, play some third base. Certainly could play some shortstop. So it's potential to look at Bichette. But I mean, Bellinger is the main guy, and he's been the Yankee #1 priority. Again, not imminent on Bellinger, so we got to consider everything else for Bellinger and everything else for the Yankees as well at this point, because that one is not wrapped up by any means as we sit here today. Reds, any news, rumors? I mean, I like what they've done around the margins. I like the Blade, even at 1.4 million. Royals rumors, I saw they signed Josh Rojas. I think Mark Feinsand had that today. They're still looking at outfield, I think, and we'll see. I mean, if the Red Sox get one of the infielders, whether that be a Marte or a Bichette or a Bregman, they're likely to trade one of those outfielders, whether that be Duran or whomever. Duran certainly was connected to the Royals. All right, let's see here. Okay, I think we got all that. Next category. Okay. What will it take to get Tucker to the Mets? You know what? The Mets don't look as good as the Yankees or the Dodgers. Certainly the Dodgers. Nobody's as good as the Dodgers, but they don't look as good as Toronto right now. So, I mean, I think the Mets are going to have to overpay to get Tucker. I don't know what his feeling is on New York. It would be interesting to see Pete Alonso's high school teammate end up with the Mets, not a Pete Alonso. Weird. It's weird to see Devin Williams, the guy that Alonso homered off on the Mets, and no Alonso. So it'd be weirder still to see Tucker with the Mets. It would be a funny signing. I mean, they signed a great left-handed hitting right fielder, best left-handed hitting right fielder in the game, and Juan Soto for $765 million. To add another 300 plus million to make it $1 billion for left-handed right fielders, I know they're one of three teams, so you can't rule them out, but. Three teams that we know about, so you can't rule them out, but that's not the perfect fit to me. Bichette or Bregman more likely for the Cubs. I almost think Bichette might be more likely for the Cubs. The Cubs were pretty short last year on Bregman. Things can change, obviously, but they were offering like 120 or something like that. Detroit was at 170, and he ended up signing with Boston where he preferred. So, I mean, I still think Boston is the favorite for Bregman, and I don't see Bichette going back to Toronto. So I'm going to say Bichette more likely for the Cubs. Who was the first big bat to be signed? I thought it might be Bregman. It feels like there's a lot of activity with Bregman, so I think it might be Bregman. How about Valdez? Look, he's looking for a big deal, and I don't blame him. The guy's been an outstanding pitcher. Certainly the comps are Fried and Corbin Burns, who both got over $200 million. And I know Cease got over $200 million. At this point, I would say Valdez not likely to get over $200 million. He should get a 6-year deal, though. He should get a 6-year deal. He is over 30, an outstanding pitcher. I could see the Orioles. I could see the Mets, although I don't know that they would give 6 years. I don't know. What was the Red Sox aggressive offer to Bregman? Yeah, I love those characterizations, aggressive. It wasn't a winning offer, so I don't know what aggressive means exactly. I don't know the exact bid. I've seen speculation, and to me, those are just guesses. I'm not going to guess here. It wasn't good enough at this point, but to me, they're the favorite. They make sense. He loved it there. They love him. That wall, everything fits. It does make a lot of sense. All right, Bellinger to the Angels now. The Angels they're not going to spend for Arenado. They're not going to spend. They didn't spend for Akamoto. They're not spending over 150 million or whatever it's going to take to get back. Bellinger, Mets, Valdez. The years is a question mark for me. I'm not sure they go the years. All right, latest trade rumors. Let's get going on that. Skubal, they are listening to offers. I don't think they're countering anybody yet. I wouldn't say it's that likely. I do know of several rivals who believe that they should trade him. Of course, maybe they want him to be traded. I don't know, but it's a tricky situation. I mean, we've seen stars like this get traded with a year to go. Mookie Betts, that ended up being he traded him and made a mistake. Shohei Ohtani, the Angels didn't trade him. That might have been an even bigger mistake. I don't know. I don't want to rate the mistakes there. They were both enormous mistakes, and It's hard to know what the right thing to do is. Detroit was won two-thirds of the games with Skubal the last couple of years, only won 50% of the games without him. They do look like the favorite in that division. Uh, it's difficult to see a Skubal being traded, but you can't rule that out at this point. I do think the Mets, the Dodgers, several teams, big market teams with big prospects. Is Jazz getting traded? I don't think it's that likely, but they are listening. So I'm going to say not that likely, but listening. Mets are looking to sign mid-tier players. That's the way it looks so far. I think they need a big-time pitcher. I don't think there's any way the Mets are going to be a big-time contender without a big-time pitcher. At this point, whether that be Valdez, Suarez, one of the trade options, Skubal, Peralta, maybe even Gore. I think they need to get one of these guys to make themselves a viable contender in a difficult division. Otherwise, to me, they're just an average team. They won 83 games last year, didn't make the playoffs. Right now, at this point, now we got 5 weeks to go before spring training begins. They do not look like a playoff team now. There are a lot of good starting pitchers left, as I just mentioned, a ton of them, right? So they got plenty of time and certainly a lot of wherewithal, and they've got the pitchers that are out there, whether it be Skubal, Peralta, Gore, Suarez, Valdez. They better get one of them. You need a big-time pitcher, I think, in this day and age. I don't think there's any way around that. What will Chip Kelly bring to the Wildcat? A Big Ten title. I have Big Ten title. How many teams are in the Big Ten? Is it 17 or 18? I've lost count. The Big Ten is the powerhouse. They've got the 2 or 3 best teams, I believe. Indiana looks like the best team. I don't know about a Big Ten title, but it's very exciting for us Wildcats. So thank you for that question. I appreciate that. Any Wildcat questions will be appreciated and will be answered. I'm just going to guarantee that right now, even though it's not baseball. All right, that was a wasted minute for most of you, so we're going to go over by a minute. All right, on the trade front, as I said, Skubal, they're listening. Not going to say it's too likely. Peralta, they're listening. I do think that one is fairly likely. Gore hasn't been much buzz lately. Early on, he was the most likely to be traded. Didn't come to fruition. At least he's not the first because it looks like Cabrera is going. We know that Shane Baz went. I think Gore makes sense. The Nats are not a playoff team this year. Are they a playoff team next year? Not so sure. Is he a valuable commodity? Obviously, right? Baz got a lot. We think that certainly that Cabrera got a lot. So Ketel Marte is one of the best hitters in the game. He's got a 150 OPS plus on average the last couple of years. There aren't too many players who've done that. I think it's just basically Soto, Ohtani, Judge. Not a lot of them. He's one of the top 10 hitters in the game. And I get it. Arizona's asking for a lot, and they should ask for a lot. And they've said that they're going to call it off soon. And is it dependent on when Bregman signs or where he signs? If he signs with Boston, that shuts off Boston as a possibility for Marte. They're one of the main possibilities, along with Seattle, Tampa, maybe Philly, maybe Toronto. Those are basically the 5 main possibilities, I think, on Ketel Marte. But they said they're going to shut it off pretty soon, whether that be when Bregman's signed somewhere, I'm not sure, but pretty soon means, I would say, within a week or so. We shall see. I don't know. He didn't define pretty soon. All right, that's it for the trade possibilities. I appreciate the Chip Kelly question. I like that. All right. Let's see here. Let's go on to last category. Yankees, Mets targets. The number one priority for the Yankees is Cody Bellinger. We know that. As I've said, it does not appear imminent at this point. Obviously there's a difference right now at the moment. So I could see Bellinger looking around a little bit more. Certainly he is their number one priority. He's only said that he wants to go to a winner. That's all he really cares about. So to me, the Yankees make sense. Obviously, his old Dodger team makes plenty of sense. I hear he loved it in LA, but would he take a shorter deal to go there? Look, Diaz could have gotten 5 years from the Braves, not from the Mets. They were only willing to do 3. He got 3 years from the Dodgers. Sometimes players are willing to take fewer years if they go to the place they really want to go to. Does he prefer the Dodgers to the Yankees? That I don't know. I think he liked New York. I think he'd love to be there. But I do think the Dodgers are an outstanding alternative. Would he consider the Mets? I would say he would. He has said the biggest thing for him is the winner. The Mets did win 83, so is that a winner? It's not my book, but maybe he likes what they're doing, and maybe they can convince him. They certainly convinced Soto that they'd have a better future than the Yankees, so maybe they'll sell him on it. Maybe they'll pay more. I don't know. But if they don't get Bellinger, certainly they're going to look at Bichette as a guy that is seriously considered. To me, I think they're going to talk to Tucker. They've checked in with Tucker. Is Tucker a likelihood for the Yankees? I don't see that. Certainly the Yankees are looking at starting pitching as well. We know that, despite the fact they have pretty good starting pitching, and they've got guys coming back. Cole within a couple of months of the season. Certainly Schmidt will be back. Rodon within a month or two of the season. And they've got the four guys starting with Fried and Schlittler. Of course, Heel as well, and Warren is the other guy. So they're not in bad shape in terms of starting pitching, but I can see them adding somebody. Maybe they'll look at Giolito. That's a name I've kind of heard potentially for the Yankees. As far as the Mets go, I mean, to me, they could look at Bellinger, as we said. Potentially, they like him. They love the run prevention. He's an outstanding defensive player. They could use someone to play more first base. Certainly, they don't have a center fielder right now. I think they're hoping that Carson Benj be their center fielder, another lefty. So Bellinger is a better fit than Tucker because he plays all these multiple positions and arguably about it. They're both terrific defenders. Bellinger had just a fantastic defensive season, but both are terrific defenders. He is a little bit less costly. He may be very popular and he may have more teams than Tucker, but he's going to be a little bit less costly than Tucker. Tucker's one of the best all-around players in the game at this point. Bellinger, give him credit, and a lot of people do, and I think the Dodgers give him credit for this. He remade himself. He was an MVP kind of guy. Then he couldn't hit for a couple of years with a shoulder injury. He remade himself in Chicago, and I think the Cubs, as I said, have some regrets about moving on from him as they did, basically just giving him away to the Yankees. And I think the Cubs are a team that is considering Bellinger, as are the Dodgers and the Mets. And certainly the Yankees will look around, and Bichette is a possibility if they're not able to get Bellinger. All right, the Mets got to be pitching for the Mets. I mean, look at their rotation and their bullpen right now. They've got half of a bullpen. And half of that are two guys who came over from the Yankees, good pitchers, but Yankee bullpen was not great. Let's face it. Weaver's a good pitcher. Devin Williams is a good pitcher. Is Devin Williams a closer in New York? He didn't do very well as a closer with the Yankees. So I'm not sure who they're going to get for a closer. I don't think Mason Miller's getting traded. Tyler McGill's brother, Trevor McGill, maybe that's a possibility. And then there are a number of other relief pitchers out there. Pierce Johnson is out there, a pretty good pitcher. Tyler Kinley. There are a few other pitchers, and they need to bulk up that bullpen. But in terms of this rotation, the Mets need to do something. Look, Senga was not good last year. He was good at the beginning, but then it blew up on him, right? So he was not. He's not a certainty for this year, and they had him on the block. I don't hear anything about it anymore, but Minaya obviously was not good in his second year in New York. McClain is really their top pitcher at this point, and he was only up for a couple months. And so they definitely need a starting pitcher. So they're looking at Skubal, Peralta, Gore, all of those guys who are free agents. They're looking at Valdez, certainly. They're looking at Suarez. I think Gallen could be a fit, guy from New Jersey. Giolito could be a fit. Bassett, a guy that they had, potentially a fit. The Mets, to me, need multiple starters, and they need good ones because right now you've got McClain, and you don't have that much else that you can really count on. No, I do not hate the Mets, but thank you. Right now, they're not looking that great. Look at what the fans say. I'm a fan. There we go. All right. This is Jon Heyman. This has been my pleasure. Appreciate all the chats, particularly the Northwestern question. I enjoyed that a lot, and I enjoyed all the other chats. Thank you very much. It's been my pleasure. I'll be back at you next week.